Murder is a result offence. The prosecution must prove a direct causal connection between the defendant's conduct and the victim's death. It is not necessary for the defendant to prove his conduct was the result of the victim's death. That's for the jury to decide. The actus reus for murder is that the same of manslaughter. It's an unlawful killing. The prosecution must prove that the act was unlawful, that the act was objectively dangerous, and that the accused intended to commit the act. It's irrelevant whether the defendant thinks his actions were dangerous. This is also for the jury to decide. There are different degrees of manslaughter. There is involuntary manslaughter and voluntary manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter is an unlawful killing in extenuating circumstances, such as self-defense. The other kind of manslaughter is voluntary manslaughter. There are three kinds of voluntary manslaughter: criminal and dangerous act, criminal negligence, and failure to perform a legal duty. The first two tend to overlap each other, as you'll see in a moment. It would be considered a criminal and dangerous act when someone commits an unlawful and dangerous act resulting in the death of someone else. Unlike involuntary manslaughter, the killing is deliberate, although the consequence can result in manslaughter. What can break the chain of causation? The injuries suffered must be connected to the accused. We can see this in the case of R.V. White. So, what happened in R.V. White was that a son decided to poison his mother and he put it in her tea. The woman drank the tea, but he actually didn't put enough poison in it, and the woman ended up suffering an unrelated heart attack and died. So he wasn't convicted of manslaughter, but they could charge him then for attempted murder. So this intervening act, sometimes that comes in and breaks the chain of causation, is known as a novus actus interveniens, the new intervening act that breaks the chain of responsibility. It's usually an unforeseen act, like an act of God. The eggshell rule. So this rule says that you must take your victim as you find them. So Rupert, with his diabetes, the doctor can't use that as an excuse as to why Rupert died. Although it might be related to Rupert's diabetes, it was the doctor's ignorance and negligence for not knowing that he had diabetes. Was the mens rea for murder present? We must consider this, as it's more than likely what will decide if Montague is to be convicted for murder or for manslaughter. Was the actus reus for manslaughter there? And yes, it was, because both Rupert and Teddy were unlawfully killed. So the last thing that we have to consider was the chain broken? Could the second surgery going wrong be a novus actus interveniens? The eggshell rule stating that you must take your victim as you find them means the chain would not have been broken for Rupert.